Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, want to see what failure looks like? Unbridled, unabashed, just completely utter failure. A living example. For your viewing pleasure, the Republican Party's loss, Donald Trump's loss, in trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare.
You've all heard me say this before. Moving from an opposition party to a governing party comes with growing pains. And, well, we're feeling those growing pains today. We came really close today, but we came up short. I spoke to the president just a little while ago, and I told him that the best thing I think to do is to pull this bill, and he agreed with that decision. I will not sugarcoat this. This is a disappointing day for us. The president gave his all in this effort. He did everything he possibly could to help people see the opportunity that we have with this bill. He's really been fantastic.
He's really been fantastic. That's awesome. I love how they're not turning on each other, at least not vocally. And Paul Ryan is like, yeah, Trump did everything he could to get this bill working. He did everything he could. Yeah, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Trump did everything he could. I wager that within the coming weeks, these guys are going to turn on each other in regards to who they're blaming for causing this.
Still, we got to do better, and we will. I absolutely believe that. This is a setback, no two ways about it. But it is not the end of the story. What we have is a member-driven process to try and get consensus. We came very close, but we could not get that consensus. That's why I thought the wise thing to do is not proceed with a vote, but to pull the bill and see what we can do. But I don't think the law, as it is fashioned or anything close to it, is really going to be able to survive.
That's a loss. That's a loss. However you want to count it, that's a loss. This is an amazing thing to watch. Because understand the euphemisms that he's using, the innuendo. In the same way that Loretta Lynch made that video where she's using these words that allow people for inclusion. He's doing the same thing. The only difference is the people he's talking about are his donors, not the American public. If he's standing up here, he's making this case that this is a loss. No two ways about it. This is a loss. We failed on this particular front. All right. But understand what he failed on. They were trying to take health care from like 20 million people. They were trying to take health care from like 20 million people in order to give themselves and their plutocrats, their donors, a tax cut. That is where all of this came from. And look, to some degree, part of it had to do with they were a dog chasing a car. Like, they've been after Obamacare. Mind you, it's their plan. Like, Obamacare was essentially the Heritage Foundation's plan. It was Romneycare. Obama essentially took a private solution, quote-unquote solution for healthcare, expanded it to the federal level. Republicans have been against it from jump, even though technically it is their plan, it's their idea for a private market solution for healthcare. They've been a dog chasing a car. Now the key point is, just because a dog is chasing a car does not in fact mean that the dog wants to catch that car. Donald Trump, for the most part, in regards to the whole Democrats and Russia thing, they're making hay out of it because they want the argument. They want to try to delegitimize Trump. They want to give the minions, the hacks, the people in their party, ammunition to essentially make a case to tear down Trump and to tear at his legitimacy. Ryan and his base have done the same thing with Obamacare. They voted to repeal it like 60 times, some ridiculous amount of times. Certainly Obama wasn't going to repeal his own healthcare law. Also, the point of it wasn't necessarily repeal because these people didn't think they were going to win. They thought Hillary Clinton was going to win that election. Meaning they didn't realize they were going to be in the position to actually try to nix Obamacare. Early on in the process after the election, a lot of these guys were having this conversation of like, hey, you think if we eliminate 20 million people from healthcare, that they're going to be angry and turn around and vote us out of office? This party, even though Republicans are perfectly okay with having these batshit crazy conversations, these batshit crazy rhetoric, and they would stand in that rhetoric. As wrong as they are, they would stand there. They were made to come to heel based upon how many people were so angry and put off by the fact that they were trying to take their health care. This is an amazing thing. This is the Washington Post. House Republican leaders abruptly pulled a rewrite of the nation's health care system from consideration on Friday, a dramatic acknowledgement that they were unable to repeal the Affordable Care Act. "We just pulled it," Trump told the Washington Post in a telephone interview. "I don't blame Paul," Trump said, referring to Paul Ryan. In a news conference shortly after the decision, Ryan conceded that his party came up short. The interview, Trump deflected any responsibility for the setback and blamed Democrats instead. "We couldn't get one Democratic vote, and we were a little bit shy, very little, but it was still a little bit shy, so we pulled it." Trump said he would not ask Republican leaders to reintroduce the legislation in the coming weeks. Instead, he would wait for the current law to encounter problems, believing the Democrats would want to work with the White House to make changes. As you know, I've been saying for years that the best thing is to let Obamacare explode and then go make a deal with the Democrats and have one unified deal. And they will come to us. We won't have to come to them, he said. "The beauty," Trump continued, "is that they own Obamacare. So when it explodes, they come to us and we make one beautiful deal for the people." Trump said he has no problems waiting for Democrats to seek cooperation with the Republicans to health care. Does that have merit? Now, I'm going to say yes, to some degree that may have merit, but Democrats still should not bite on that. Republicans are in power in all branches of government. There's so many things that Obamacare depends on in order to function. If they're nixing certain policies, if they're nixing certain things, they can make that law more miserable than what it would typically be. For instance, part of the reason that the rates increased, or they were spiking, had to do with the provision that Republicans essentially nixed. That, getting rid of that particular provision allowed rates to spike. They can do this. They can chop this law down at various points in order to make it look worse than it actually is. And I suspect that's probably what's going to take place. Yeah. So yeah, there's some legitimacy to it. Should Democrats, at that point, outside of getting like single payer, agree to help them to nix their own president's plan? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So Chuck Schumer responded, "The blame falls with President Trump and the Republicans. So much for the art of the deal," he added. At the Capitol, the deflated Ryan said he would confer with fellow Republicans in the coming days about how to proceed, but he warned that we're going to be living with Obamacare for the foreseeable future. Yeah, that's called a loss. That's called a loss. They, for the most part, made political hay out of something that covered a lot of people. It wasn't a great solution. It wasn't a perfect solution. It wasn't a solution at all if you're talking about covering everybody. But it was an improvement, an incremental improvement over the system that we already had, or the system that we were existing under. Republicans literally wanted a tax cut at the expense of people having access to health care. Their argument for the most part has been consistently, Obama's trying to be a slave master of sorts. He's trying to force people to get health care. If people don't have the freedom to die of cancer or to die of syphilis without medical coverage, then I am against Obama's plan for health care. I mean, it's a crazy argument. It's like you have the freedom to die without health care. Is that a freedom that you actually want? This is amazing to me that he's standing in front. It's not amazing. Look, this argument that they're having is not totally ideological. I keep making this point that these guys are paid to take a particular position. Lower my taxes. Period. I don't give a shit if you have to take their health care. Lower my taxes is what they're paid for. So these conversations that they're having and all this other stuff, they're talking about their constituents. Not the American public, the plutocrats, the robber barons, the rich, the wealthy, the people who are essentially stuffing money in their pocket to send them out there to parrot a particular perspective. In this particular case, they lost. Now, you need to understand, I've made this point before, because there's a narrative here that I haven't necessarily heard anywhere else. I've made this point before that our elections system, our architecture for our elections are broken. They don't work well. They're atrophied. They're frozen over. They're rusted. But just because they're rusted doesn't necessarily mean that they don't work. In this particular situation, we have the Republican Party who's literally voted like 60 times to kill the Affordable Care Act. Voted like 60 some times to destroy people's health care or access to health care. These people who are ideologically bent in a particular way, regardless of the evidence, regardless of the information that presents itself, they don't believe that people should have health care, particularly if they have to pay for it by raising taxes on their donors. Nevertheless, they could not get the votes for something that they voted overwhelmingly for in the past. The people who were going to those rallies, the people who were jeering them, the people who were chasing them, screaming at them, yelling at them, they were concerned. Not concerned for their safety per se from a physical standpoint. They realized that if they nix those people's health care, if they hurt those people are going to come back to hurt them in the ballot box. What I mean is, to some degree, this shows that the system can work, even though the system currently does not work. Those things are different. It also is, even though this is a victory, this is a condemnation of us, meaning the public. Our job as the public, civilian oversight, accountability, criticism, scrutiny, skepticism, those things are advantages in regards to analyzing political behavior. Those things are crucial because without them, these particular parties can do whatever they want and they can be completely detached from what the public itself wants. In this particular situation, they were concerned enough that they thought that they were going to lose. They didn't vote this way out of their health. They didn't vote this way because they thought Obamacare was awesome. They voted this way because they were concerned that they were going to lose their seat. It means that there are things that could have taken place in the past, meaning the rightward shift of this country. If we were less bound to our parties, if we were less bound to believing these guys, less bound to being stuck at work to the degree where we don't pay attention to things outside of our own little sphere of influence, if we were less bound in that way, the rightward shift of this country could have been halted. Yes, this is a major thing that the people came out in order to kind of assert themselves, but it means that people could have asserted themselves in other cases for similar results. Meaning all of the things that took place with regards to our government, whether that's spying, whether that's mass surveillance, whether that's murdering civilians, whatever. If the public took a stand in it, if the public asserted itself, it's very possible that those things could have been brought to heel, or at the very least stifled, or curbed, or nixed altogether. This is an indictment of us. This is an indictment of us. Essentially, the things that we didn't do in order to keep an eye on our government and to actually manage our government. Because ultimately, if you don't keep an eye on it, you're going to lose it. This is a win. This is a good thing. Good job, Democrats. You held the line. Good job, American public, for not letting these guys off the hook on this stuff. And good job on your loss. Again, Donald Trump. There's one particular part here that's amazingly funny. It said some of the people left with tears in their eyes over not being able to strip health care away from 20 million people. That is an amazing thing. That's amazing. That gives you this idea of their priorities. Not you. Look guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like the videos. Have a good one.